do you guys live in huts or people hurt people? I worked so hard to get rid of my accent. I didn't want to be made fun of. Oh my gosh. People be like, are you African? I always felt like in the US, when you're a black woman especially, you're black first, woman second, and all the other things, and then you're human last.
Wow.
So,
She hit your hand?
No, in the back. Oh, so it just seems like that. And like everyone is trying to find who they are, and these are my people.
So coming here, you felt more
African Americans don't work hard.
grounded, you didn't feel scared anymore.
Yeah.
You felt safer.
That same energy.
Were you scared?
Let me
Hey fam, Mambo fam, it's your girl Doll Babe coming to you live from my living room, and I'm here with another interviewee. Her name is Billy. Hi Billy. Welcome to my channel.
Thank you.
Billy, how did we meet again? TikTok. We met through TikTok. Billy hit me up. She came here to visit. Let me let her tell the story, all right? So, what brings you here to Kenya?
I was born here.
Okay.
And I left when I was young at 8 years old. Went to the US with my mom. She married my stepdad. When we left, we just left. We didn't say bye, nothing or anything. So it was just, I left here, this door is closed and a new door was open. And I ended up in the US. And as I got older, obviously you start questioning things and you're like, where did I come from? And all these kinds of stuff. And so obviously back then, Kenya was really behind in technology. So internet, social media was not like a thing. And so as years went by, like social media was growing, people were on Facebook, and my family started to contact me.
Wow.
And so I was just getting these requests. I'm your aunt, I'm your uncle, I'm your this. And one time it was a man that I never really knew, but I kind of had an idea. Because usually when people add me, it would be in the US, but it was Nairobi, like his placement was Nairobi. And he just said, hi, baby. and then I was like, at first I was like, who is this? And I knew, but I was just trying to act dumb, like, but he messaged me again and I was scared, and then like 2 years went by and I was like, I'm gonna reply. And so I said, hi. When I replied, this time he stops responding to me.
Oh Lord.
And then so now I'm just like, now I'm even more curious because why are you not responding?
Yeah.
And so I broke the ice and I said, do you know my dad? And then he responded, and he knew my whole name and everything.
Wow.
He just, he was like, when I was, I had a friend long time ago who had a daughter, and you resemble him. And if your name is Olivia Sampanja, then yes, I do know you.
Wow.
And I know your dad and everything. He ended up letting me know that my father passed away, but he had 3 kids, and he led me to my brother, and I got to know my sisters, and I just started to want to get to know myself more, my family, where I came from. And this past year, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. I don't have school right now, I don't have anything, bought my ticket, now I'm here.
Wow. And how long have you been here?
I've been here since March, almost 4 months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
How are you liking it?
I love it.
You
I
love
love it. It's so funny because it feels like home, but it doesn't at the same time. I just remember like getting off the plane and just like hearing the accent of my people, and I was just like, I love being here. And the food.
What's your
I
favorite
grew up
Kenyan
to.
dish? You grew up to the Kenyan food.
Yeah, I grew up. Yeah, my mom
Chapati.
still makes it at times, but it's like, you know, that occasional dish that she makes.
Yeah.
But chapati is my favorite.
Oh yeah.
And the one thing that I really missed though was samosas.
Samosas.
I love the meat samosas from here because a lot of times, you know, it's inspired by Indian dishes, but so in the U.S. when Indians make it, they usually make it with potatoes, vegetarian mostly. But yeah, Kenyans, they said meat. And I love the samosas too.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you've been getting reacclimated with your family, your history.
Yeah.
How do you feel growing up in the States, being able to trace back your history because you are Kenyan?
Yeah, I will say I feel very privileged to be able to do that because not everybody gets a chance to do that. Even just like this trip, it was such a gift because I feel like I'm getting my closure. I feel like I never really knew myself, you know. I feel like I threw away myself at a certain point because I was trying to fit in the US. I remember just like going through, especially when I turned like 18, 19, that's when, it's funny, that's when I went to college, right? And in the Bay Area, there's not so many Africans except Ethiopians and Eritreans, and I would say a lot of times they stick to themselves. In college, I went to UC Riverside, and at UC Riverside, that's when I first saw like mostly like Nigerians. There were some Kenyans, there were some Sudanese. I was exposed to more African people. And the difference was, you know, living in the Bay Area, I didn't have anyone to like be in a community with in that sense. Or most of the time we kind of hid who we are. You know how like there was.
Why is that? Why did you hide?
Because
in America.
Yeah, I would say, oh my gosh. Like I worked so hard to get rid of my accent. I didn't want to be made fun of or anything like that. So I remember, I didn't even think that I had an accent. That's the funny thing. Because when I'm talking to you, I'm like, I don't have an accent. And then people be like, are you African? And then that goes to like, do you guys live in huts? Or like, then it would go to like more bullying and like, you know. And so I was like, now I have to blend in. And I remember the first time I had this digital camera, I was recording something and I was talking in the background. And I was like, damn, I do have an accent. And then like I was practicing how to say words and like, and whenever somebody pointed out like how I say something, like I would take it to heart. I don't know, I always took everything to heart when it came to my identity because I just was always trying to avoid, you know, like being hurt about my identity. So I even remember one time I went to camp and these kids were like, are you African? And I don't know why it triggered something so big in me. I went to like the cabin that we were sleeping in and I just cried because I feel like my cover was blown. It was so crazy.
How old were you?
I was around 10, 11. Yeah, I always, you know, all the time I was trying to hide it, and I would even say that my friends knew, but then when like we met new people and new people would ask me, I would say no, and then my friends were like, why are you lying? And I was like, like, why are you lying? And I didn't know how to express myself. I used to just be like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And then so going to college, they had the African Student Union, and like I saw all these like Nigerians just very proud, like just rapping where they're from, and like all these other African people from their countries just proud, and that's when I was like, oh, being African is a cool thing,
So growing up in America as a Kenyan, you were ashamed for that because of your accent, color of your skin.
Yes,
the way you dress.
Yeah.
All that had to play in you hiding that in order to blend in with the American kids. And did you grow up in a predominantly white area, or did you have black people?
Yes.
So where exactly? You said the Bay Area.
So Bay Area, Oakland. So I would say the first school that I went to, elementary school, was mostly white kids, and then the smaller amount of black kids. And then I remember I went to high school at a private school, a private Catholic school, and that place put me through so much. And I would say it's even funny because going back to even the skin color, me being dark skinned, right? There was this other boy who went to the school who was also from Africa, but he was Ethiopian. And then there was another girl. She was a white girl from South Africa. They got no heat for being African, but I did. And the white girl was like, "Oh, you're so cool! Oh my gosh!" Like they would show her pictures of her like holding a stick, whatever. It was so cool for her. And then I remember one time in class with the Ethiopian boy, because he's light skinned, curly hair, whatever. They were talking about African countries, and I remember this boy was going around class saying like, "We're talking about countries in Africa," and he said something like, Ethiopia is not in Africa. That's like saying Yakub is from Africa. And I was like, but he is from Africa. So it's so funny because in America, people just think of sub-Saharan Africa and dark skin, and that's where all the bad things happen. Egypt, no. Morocco, no. And then like the white South African girl, oh yeah, she wasn't poor. She had a rich life, blah, 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 blah. But
all those stereotypes.
And then like when I stood up for myself, I was ghetto now, and then like
a loud black woman,
and then
angry.
I remember at that school, there was even a rumor, I would say, I was answering questions in chemistry class, and I remember this white boy came up to me and said, hey Billy, I heard you were actually smart in chemistry. So it's like, I had all these just negative stereotypes put on me. So it's like, it was like, if I wasn't African, then I was just a black, ghetto girl. If I wasn't this, and I was that. And I remember I would beg my dad, like, I can't go to this school anymore. I can't go to this school anymore. And at first he was like, no, like this is a really good school and so on. And then some person, there was this website where you like leave anonymous messages, and they left a message saying, go back to your country. And then that's when my dad was like, you can't go here.
Yeah.
And then I went to a school where it's way more diverse.
Wow.
And I started to do so much better.
More there.
Yeah. But
wow. So you grew up here until you were 8.
Yeah.
Did you go to school?
Yeah, so
how was it here?
I don't really remember. I remember the first school that I went to was Uhuru Gardens, and then the second one was Muguga Green. I remember Muguga Green more. I remember just very strict. My teachers are strict. This was during the time where like it was legal to hit kids, so like I was a crybaby. I remember there was one time where the whole class got in trouble, and she had this rubber, like this, I don't remember what she called it, and so everybody had to put their head on the table like this, and she was going around. She started on that side, and I was like on this side.
Dang.
And she was just going around, pop me, like seeing it come closer.
Oh my gosh. What did she hit? She hit your hand?
No, the bat.
Oh,
so she was like, bah! And then so I just kept on seeing the thing come closer. And then, and then I remember also, because Kenya is so big on learning English, so if you know English, you are very educated. So that's why a lot of times, like, oh, you speak English. Like, they see it as a class. So we had to speak English in class. And then so they had this thing where they had like an object, I forgot what they call it. And so if you spoke Swahili during class, you would get it. So whoever was the last person to get the thing before we went to recess, lunch, or whatever, they would get hit.
Oh.
And I remember one time I was the last person. I never spoke again in class.
Wow.
I didn't care if it was Swahili, English. No, I'm good.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. So that shows me like you guys were even here. You guys had a stigmatism or like a stereotype, like English is better than your native tongue.
Yeah. The colonized,
like that's better, to the point where they would hit you if you were speaking any other language besides English. Wow, that's deep. How was the education though? Like, you said your teachers pushed you guys.
Yeah. Okay. So our teachers. So the difference between here and the U.S. I would say it was expected of me to do really well. It was expected, like you know how like in the U.S. when the Chinese come and they do really well, and it's like it's a high expectations. And I remember there was even this study where they were doing a study across like different ethnic backgrounds, and they were seeing like whether people are actually smarter or blah blah blah, and so on. But it was actually the expectations. So I always did well here because it was expected of me to do well. When I moved to the U.S., it was kind of like the opposite, I always felt like in the U.S., for a black woman especially, you're black first, a woman second, and all the other things, and then you're human last.
Wow.
So it's like you're always being judged based off those things until you prove you're not those things.
Yes.
And so I remember in middle school, going into my 6th grade class, I knew I was smart, and even in Kenya, we were way ahead in terms of content, because my 2nd grade teacher even said that, like, she's way ahead of these kids. And then so when I got into middle school, my teacher set two sides of the classrooms up, and then she put the advanced kids on this side, and then the kids who were, I guess, in her sense, behind on the other side. And she didn't, test us or anything. She just assumed. And so when I was put on this side, on the side, what would you say? Or remedial, I guess. I was like, why am I on this side? Because I know I worked that, and I was so confused. So I always was like, okay, no, I need to prove to her. And like, that's when she was like, oh, you're actually smart. Wow. And then she moved me to the other side. And so it was always that, always at in schools. Like I was always expected to be bad and then prove them wrong, and then they are like, oh, now you're human, and
now I see you.
Now I see you.
Because of the knowledge you possessed. Wow.
I was never seen, and I remember I even had this friend who was white in up to middle school, and I used to just like, why are they just assuming the best of her? Like, we do our homework together. Like, you know, it's just it all the way up into college.
Wow.
It was just whatever, and you start to take that in. You start to believe it. And I, even in high school, I remember I would hide my grades sometimes because even with my friend group, it's like all my friends were black, so it's like they believed like doing well was that like, you know, like it wasn't cool. Because that's what they've been told all their lives, and so I would get my report card and I just keep it chill, like, you know, like, but I was actually, you know, I was doing well, and people even who knew, like, I remember somebody like, really has a da-da-da-da, and everybody's coming to me like, I don't know, it was just sad because you're trying to put on a show for everybody. You're trying to show your teacher, like, oh, I'm actually smart, then you're trying to tell your friends I'm actually cool. And then
you're trying to please everyone and not remain to be yourself.
Yeah, you're trying to please everyone. And I really feel like in the US, I'm still getting to know myself, and I feel like my personality became this person who was defined by whatever group I'm sitting in, because whatever, I just didn't know myself. To this point, sometimes I just feel lost when I'm in a circle, because I'm like, okay, who am I going to show? And I'm trying to learn who I really am.
Wow. That's why you came back home.
Yeah, and I'm learning.
How do you feel here?
I would say I feel good just being in this environment, but then also I feel lost as a Kenyan. Like, you know, even me myself, when I go back to my family in the country, I can't really communicate with all of them because they speak Swahili or they either speak Luya. And then they call me Mzungu too. They call me Mzungu or like, oh, she speaks Kizungu or whatever. Or when people see me in the streets and they automatically start speaking Swahili, and I'm just lost. It hits me a little different because I knew that language at one point, but then, and I think that trauma kind of hits me because I was so ashamed of who I was and where I came from, to the point where I threw it all away, and now I wish I had it back. And it's like, and I always feel embarrassed, ashamed, and all those things.
So now that you're back, is the shame going away? The embarrassment? Are you embracing your culture? People. What tribe are you from?
Luya. Yeah.
Shout out Luya tribe.
I would say I was never attached to being a Luya. My mom didn't like she had a really awful relationship with my dad, and one thing about that is a lot of times when someone is getting abused and all that kind of stuff, quiet, you know, and so she escaped that, which is very understandable. So I never really was attached to that. And me knowing that story, I don't know if I'm gonna be attached to that. I love Kenya in general, and Nairobi, but like
the tribe.
But one really cool thing is like where I really feel like when I fit in is usually people just see my last name here and they're just like, oh, you're Luya, you're Maragoli or whatever, and that feels really good. That's because contrast to the U.S., I was ashamed by my last name.
Wow.
Because I was like, and I remember I used to want to switch it to my stepdad's last name, so people like, you know, when the stuff is going through the names, how do you say that? And then like all of those things happen, but here it's like, oh, you're one of me, and it's very, that name is very
popular. It's well known.
Exactly.
Wow.
But I would say,
some Black Americans, we're changing our last names because we don't know our heritage, we don't know our lineage, so we're changing to be able to get back to our roots.
And I think
so. Definitely identity crisis.
And I think I remember I think college was when I
I'm into
really, yeah, but I was really learning about, like, I took a class in black psychology, and I remember, like, this class was me learning and then me trauma, like, you know, like, I was just learning so much, and I'm like, oh, that's why.
Breaking you and building you back up.
Exactly. I was like, I felt like I had a free therapy session.
Yeah.
And I just was learning so much, and I feel like identity is such a,
Very important.
it's such a big thing. And even sometimes when I'm watching, because I've been watching so many things and I'm able to conceptualize it. I don't know if you, Kyrie Irving and how he did all that.
Yeah.
To me, I was a dad. Like, sometimes I look at him and like I feel his pain. Because I know what he's going through. Like, he's just trying to find who he is. And a lot of people are like, yeah, and I don't think he's trying to be like revengeful or, but he's going through his process. And I think we all are trying, whether you're trying to like change your last name, even the FBAs or whatever, everyone is trying to find who they are. And it's like, some are very extreme and some are just, you know, normal, and some people are just finding comfort in who they are. So it's very real. Yeah.
So you being here for the past couple of months since March, what have you been doing?
So in March, I kept it chill. I didn't really even tell my family that I was here because even on Facebook, I get overwhelmed. I kept it chill. I didn't tell everybody I was here except for my sister. I got to know my sister very well. I remember the first time I saw her, I came downstairs and I looked at her and I was like, oh my God, like, this is my sister. Wow. And like, we looked alike, and she looks like my dad, and I'm like, I look like my dad. It was crazy. Yeah. And so I hung out with her in the read room. And then my second month, I've been like learning Swahili. I got a tutor who I saw like 2 times a week.
I love to hear some words.
You like to need to say?
Say hi, how are you?
Habari gani?
Okay.
Sasa. Ninajifunza Kiswahili. So since I've been learning,
Swahili.
And then and after that, I came to Nairobi. I came to Westlands. That's where I grew up. Oh my gosh, it's been crazy. So that's where I really felt at home. I didn't really feel at home in Ruiru. Ruiru was just a very different vibe. But when I got to Westlands, I was like, oh yeah, this is my home. A couple of weeks later, one of my best friends from California came. Oh, nice. Hung out, went to Mombasa, and then.
How do you like Mombasa?
It was nice, just really hot.
It's hot, yeah. Everybody says it's hot.
Really hot. But Mombasa used to be our vacation place when I was younger, especially when my mom married my stepdad. We would just go to Mombasa.
Oh, that's nice.
And then I went to go to Kitale. That's where my mom's side is. It was so amazing. Last year, so I remember I was planning this trip. Like, I was like, let me just finish college first, you know? Grad school.
What'd you go to college for?
So I finished college in public policy, and then so now I'm in grad school for education, and I took a break from that. But my original plan was to finish grad school and then go to Kenya, take a year off, and then go back to school. But something came up, and so I ended up coming now. But in June, when I was in summer school, that's when my granddad, he passed away. And I remember just like, oh yeah, I think I'll have one more year. And like, I was just like, I just thought I was gonna have like one more time with him. And then like, I remember I was in class and my mom texted me, she was like, Dad died. And I was like, oh, like, who crazy. Yeah. And then so when, fast forward to here, I'm going to Kitale and I got on the bus. And I was so emotional because I was like, I wish he was here, I wish he was here. And he always wanted to like, you know, have me there because remember when I told you guys when we left, we didn't say anything. Yeah, you just 10 years, never talked to him. Wow. And then the last time we came here, he was like, why didn't you say anything? But obviously it's not my fault, my mom didn't want to talk to anybody. Yeah. So
this year you were here, when's the last time you visited?
2013.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I felt like a lot of those years in the past I wasn't ready for this trip, and then this year I was really ready, and then like he was gone. So but I remember and I remember just getting there, like seeing my uncle and then my family. So I would say like in the US I've always really felt alone because, you know, my stepdad and then my mom are like the only people that I had. And then my mom went through like a long period of alcoholism, so she was like missing. So I never felt like I had, you know, like a family security at all, like, you know. And that was like the first time I really felt like that. Like these are my people. They welcomed me. Like I remember when I first walked through the door, like my grandmother was there and they were all hugging me and I was just crying. They're like, why are you crying? And I was like, I can't believe that I'm here. And like, it was such a, and I don't even like the country, but I was just so happy to be there. We were all just sitting in the living room, going through our photos. And the old photos of my grandpa, the first time I went there, and I remember I was just sitting there and I was just like, wow, I've never had this. Like where I really have. I remember when I was younger, I used to want a busy house. Because I was the only child. I wanted like a busy house where everybody was at, because that's how my friend's house was.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm having family time with my people, and it's something so small, but it was so big to me.
No, that's a big deal.
And it just felt so nice. I hung out with my aunt the next day, and we went to a museum. Know about the Mama? They're the group who fought off the colonizers.
Oh yes, I do. I've heard about them.
Yeah, so we went to the place where they jailed them.
Wow. And
that was so big to me too, because I never knew my history. I know all of America's history, and it was the first time I was learning about, you know, where I came from and everything. So it was just a really nice trip. I remember texting my dad and my mom, and I was like, if my trip ended today, I feel like it's complete.
Wow.
And so.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So did you have any? You spent time with your siblings, your family. Then you came back to Westlands.
Yeah.
And you're gonna be going back to the States soon.
Yeah.
How do you feel about going back? You're sad. Do you have any plans of coming back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm thinking about maybe teaching here for a year before I can start teaching in the U.S. I'm not sure what my plans are.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm finally not, you know, before coming here, I was so afraid. I was so afraid of taking this trip and being by myself and making that kind of move. But just being here, I feel refreshed. I feel like I'll be ready to make that move and not be scared.
That's great. That's great. Coming here, you felt more grounded. You didn't feel scared anymore.
Yeah.
You felt safer. Were you scared?
Let me tell you something. I don't think about being black being here.
Wow.
Like that is not something I think about. I remember I wasn't really aware, except for when I was younger, we lived in this apartment complex and there was some Indian kids. I was like this, oh yeah, we don't like each other that much. But like going to America, I remember when my parents would talk and they'll be talking about somebody at work. What was their race? And I remember I was young and I was like, why does their race matter?
Yeah.
Why does their race matter?
Wow.
That was always because
growing up here, nobody's seen race. They just seen you.
Yeah, because that had everything. I never understood it. And then like I grew up and I was like, dang, every day I wake up and I remember that I'm black, you know?
Wow.
But like here, I remember I don't speak Kiswahili, but like I just it's peaceful.
Yeah.
Like it's peaceful, not. I remember.
Just flowing.
Yeah. And I remember because sometimes I remember in college one time. It was a Spanish teacher, and I enrolled in this class really late, right? And remember how I said like I got used to teachers looking down on me. So in my head, I hated teachers who looked down on me. Like so I remember in college, I go into this classroom and I enrolled late, so I came like the day before an exam. And then she looks at me up and down, and you could just tell what she was thinking, right? I was like, oh, I just enrolled, and then she was like, well, you know, you have an exam tomorrow, and I said, bet. Cause now you're whatever. And then so I go home, I study, I come back, take my test. She gives them back on Monday or whatever. She was like, oh wow, you had the highest exam in this class. But she looked at my last name, right? And then instead of just giving me my props, she said, oh, you must be African. African Americans don't work hard.
Wow.
So she doubled down. And she thought that like that was gonna be a compliment to me, but I hate bitches like you. Cause the first day you saw me just as black. You didn't see me as a human. And then now you're doubling down, and then now you're doing it in front of a whole class.
Wow.
And then it's just like, I don't know how to say it, but it was just not a compliment to me. It was
wasn't. She was trying to degrade
just,
you.
and then to use me as a pawn.
Yeah.
And I was just like, hated that school.
Pretty much like you did something amazing, or you did a great
Yeah.
job on your exam. And instead of her saying, "Oh, you did a great job on your exam," she said, "Oh,
Yeah.
African Americans don't usually do great in their exams."
And then to me, it still
So
goes
it's
back.
like it was bringing you back anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, you didn't see me as human at first. So I
Yeah.
did. That was a day I stopped liking you. You're not gonna make me start liking you too. If you didn't see me that way at first, keep that same energy.
Yeah.
Just give me back my test, and we can just go on about the day.
Your experience really reminds me of Black Americans. The privilege that you have is that you know your heritage. You know what I'm saying? As us as Black Americans, we don't know our heritage. Atlantic slave trade. So, and then obviously amongst other reasons, you know, a lot of people can argue. Y'all can argue in the comments about that, but yeah. So you had the same upbringing, but where it separates is like you had to hide your identity and try to be like the Black Americans that were like, oh, it's cool. It's not cool to be smart. It's not cool to be from a foreign land, African. You know the names they would call Africans, and you would pretty much get bullied for being who you were, even though we were you, but we just didn't have that culture. We had the Black American culture.
Yeah, that's how I always saw it actually, because I would even say that it's very different because I've seen Black Americans hide who they are and like in different spaces.
Talk different. Interviews.
Yes.
We would have to change our hair in order to fit in.
All of that. It's like and
we're doing and Black kids were doing that to you, or white kids were doing that like
it was always both. The crazy thing is, from a young age, I was always aware of this. Even if you look at, one day I went through my email and I was reading all my papers from middle school to high school.
Wow.
And they were always about the same thing. And I remember in one of the papers I was like, hurt people. I never really took it to offense how I was treated by Black Americans because I saw that. But then I also had a lot, I remember, like, I would say Black Americans who helped me. My friends, their families were Pan-African. So, you know, as I'm hiding this, they were telling me, embrace this, embrace that, and all of that stuff. So I wouldn't say all Black American kids were making fun of me because I had friends and their families really took me in and really, I would say, raised me.
Wow.
I remember even in one of my schools, one of my teachers, she was Black American, and she used to teach African families. She was very in tune with that stuff. I wasn't during that time, and I would just, you know, watch her and she still does it till today. But I would say, there were some people who made fun of me, and there were people who really helped me do that. Time period, even if I didn't take it in during that time. Books. I remember when I was younger, especially I was darker because
being outside in the sun.
Me too. Yeah, I played on the soccer team, and I remember I don't know if you ever heard the book The Skin I'm In. I would read books like that. Black Americans who were still helping me, you know, find myself and be comfortable with myself and understand these issues. And especially that part about understanding these issues, which helped me not take those things personal. So,
because we were all in a struggle, bro. We were all colonized, so we all had to unlearn all those things.
And then when you learn all of these things, and I'm a very conceptual person, so when you learn all of these things, you learn how to conceptualize it in different situations. So that kid isn't making fun of me because there's something wrong with me. You know, they're just in a situation that you know
they were raised and taught.
And to be honest, I was more mad at that system. I was
more mad at the system. Teaching us about Africa and how it was perceived, and you came from there, so you're like, this is not how it is.
That's who I was mad at. I still am. I would say I'm still
mad at the system.
Still mad, and I think that's one of the last things I probably need to heal from. But I would say today, like sometimes I just see one of them, and it rubs me off the wrong way, and that's just because I haven't healed that part yet completely. Because whenever I see how my people, and I would say I really do feel strongly about Black American issues too. When I see how all those people who are around me got affected by that, I'm very angry at that system.
Yeah. I agree, because it wasn't built for us. It was built to tear us down and break us apart, and separate us.
Yeah.
The difference between the States and here, as far as the culture, like you're learning the culture here.
That's crazy.
Any culture shocks, anything that shocked you is like reverse culture shock, because you were born here and you were raised here a little bit, and then you got there and then you came back.
I would say not much really shocked. I would say even when I lived here and we went to the country the first time, that shocked me, because that's a whole different place for me. Very, very different, and I know I don't fully understand that part either, because I wouldn't even know, because I don't know whether to stand up or sit down when somebody walks in. I don't know, like, those little things. The mannerisms and all of that, you know, I just don't know it. Yeah. And then on top of that, my stepdad practically raised me my whole time in the U.S. Not really my mom, because as I said, she was going through her own struggles, and my stepdad is a white man. So like, he doesn't care so much about so many different things, and so sometimes here I'm a little shy about, you know, like, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I supposed to be doing that? Yeah. But I would also say, like, things like eating with my hands is normal, because my mom cooks Kenyan dishes.
Oh, she still cooks them things.
Yeah, so I know that part. Like the music, in the last couple, I knew some music before, so it wasn't like a big culture shock. I would say I'm used to, because I remember my friend came here, the hustle, and how people will hassle you over things. I was used to that. So
I wasn't. Every time I leave the house, somebody's asking me for money or trying to sell me something.
My whole family does it, girl.
Oh.
Like, my family be like, hey, act nice, and then like,
how do they see? They see you as an Mzungu, you said. So they see that you have like a lot of money and you can help.
They don't. And they don't believe me either. That's a crazy part. If I tell you I'm broke,
they don't.
They don't.
Yeah, we can be broke too.
I will tell them, and then like next week, hey, and then a lot of times, especially my mom's mom, like she will send her kids, and then they will lie, and like they will say like, oh, somebody so and so is at the hospital, and and at first that, like, I would say that hurt me, because like I knew, like, you know, people on the streets will do that, but like especially when I wanted to know my family, I was like, oh, somebody's messaging me, they would be close to me, and then it would be about money. So
survival mode.
Yeah, so I would say within my family that hit me at first, but then like I learned how to detach. You know, if you're gonna be in my life, be in my life. If you don't, cool. It's nothing crazy. Yeah.
So you saved your money up to come here to visit for a couple months. You're in an Airbnb, or?
I'm in an Airbnb. Actually, because I was in grad school, and I'm one of those people who is lucky as well. Yeah. My stepdad, he knew I needed this trip, and I love him so much, because him and my mom are divorced. Yeah. And I have one of those weird situations. I don't think too many people have this situation, but when I was 6 years old, my stepdad told me that, you know, no matter what happens between me and your mom, I'm always gonna be in your life. So he's been taking care of me for all those years. So he funded my trip, and supporting me through this. But he really just wanted me to, you know, because he knew how much. He knew how much like it was affecting me.
So your plans for the future? Coming back to Kenya.
So I'm gonna finish school. I really like working with kids. I don't know. I did meet someone here, but he's from Nigeria.
Love interest.
I was like, we're planning different things. Yeah. I do know I want to help people when I'm older, and I want to give back, especially to my community. Yeah. But
build a business.
Something like that. I definitely want to build my family a house.
Wow.
My grandfather. So my grandfather, when he retired, they gave him a big plot of land, like acres. So like
You want to build on that land.
I'm gonna build on that
Wow.
land, build a house for them, so everyone has something in there.
Did you look into that at all? Or?
I know like the cost, but I don't know like everything. So
Okay.
in the future, that's definitely something I want to do.
How much would it cost to build?
It's like 1.2 million shillings. That's what my
Okay.
aunt said.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
To
also
build a whole home. Oh, nice.
yeah, especially yeah. I was like,
The U.S. is totally, yeah, you know.
exactly. I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I really want to do that for them.
That's amazing.
And I feel like that way, even generations to come, I'll
Wow.
always have a place to come back to.
Yes.
And my family will always have a place
Yes.
to stay. Then my sister, I went to help her go to nursing school. So I found a program right in Nairobi that gives visas to the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And that way she can support herself with a job because it's really hard to get a job out here.
Yeah. What's the program, if you don't mind sharing?
I think it's called, starts with a W. I forgot.
I'll put it in the
right here.
description below.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll put it right here.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a nursing program,
Okay,
and
that's amazing.
they'll give you like a visa to go to Florida, take your classes, and then you can get a job.
That's good.
I just want her to be able to be successful, and then we'll do something for my sister for university. Basically, just for sure help my family,
Yeah.
the ones that I feel have a genuine connection with me.
All right, so you're building the home here, and then you get back to the States. We're gonna start working on coming back so you can teach here. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you, Billy, for coming on the channel. I know it takes a lot to share your story, and I really appreciate you sharing your story with us all. Thank you so much. I'm gonna put her @ in my description below. Make sure you follow her on TikTok. That's where we found each other on. She really has very insightful, great opinions on topics about Black Americans, being Black period, the struggles we go through. She's very relatable. I love her content, and I know you guys will as well. So make sure you follow her on those platforms down below. And thank you guys for watching. Santi Sana. Thanks again, Billy.
Thanks for having me.
I did.